What up, Salvador Bregman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk about how to bring a new idea into the world, how to reach your full potential as a business owner, and really how do you actually get something out there into the world for other people to use, to enjoy, something that's going to improve their lives. We talk a lot about that on this channel. And in today's video, I really want to talk about and kind of deconstruct and really pull back the curtain behind how do you start a business even if you don't have very much funding, if you don't have any kind of capital in any kind of way. How are you going to start a business? So I'm going to go through a couple of different critical points here today. I'm going to take you from literally starting with nothing to being able to have the foundation for a business which grows years into the future, builds a brand that's worldwide, and allows you to do something that you love full-time, and we're talking about that in today's YouTube video. Hey, welcome back. Again, my name is Salvador Bregman, and I really think it's important that we start this discussion with a really critical piece of knowledge, which is the fact that if you are an aspiring business owner, and maybe you actually don't even want to be an entrepreneur, quote unquote, I hate that word, like throwing that out every single day. People are labeling themselves as business owners and entrepreneurs. Maybe you don't even want to be that. Maybe you just want to bring a new invention into the world. Maybe you want to have your ideas and your concepts influence other people. Maybe you want to have a positive impact in some way when it comes to getting this product or this service out there so it can improve other people's lives. So maybe you're an innovator, a creator, an artist, whatever the way which you label yourself. Business is kind of the foundation which you can use in order to impact other people. However, it's extremely difficult to know the road ahead when it comes to starting a business when you really don't have much funding, right? So let's get into a couple of those different ideas and tips and advice for actually starting a business if you don't have very much money or you're very limited in that way, and really think about this in kind of a different way to change your mindset and perspective so that way you can launch the business of your dreams. So the first way that most people will get started, and I would say that the vast majority of podcast guests which I've had on my podcast Crowdfunding Demystified, which is available on iTunes and also on Spotify, we've had hundreds of people come through who have been successful running 6- and 7-figure crowdfunding campaigns, building businesses from scratch, and they will tell you, you can listen to them on the show as a fly on the wall, and they will say to you, this is how I got started. And I would say the number one way that it typically begins is with a capital contribution. So what is a capital contribution and how does that work? By capital contribution, all I mean is that the founder is using some degree of their own funding and putting that into the business. Now, it's so incredibly important that we create a separation in your mind between you, the founder, and the business organization. So typically they get started with making some kind of a capital contribution to the business. Now you're like, Sal, I came to this video wanting to know how to do this without putting in my own funding. I think it's really important to put this into a historical perspective, which is the vast majority of businesses that are successful do tend to have a founder that's willing to ante up, that's willing to put some chips on the table and play a couple of hands at poker to be able to actually be in the game, right? And I'm using that more as an analogy, like don't go out there and play poker. So this capital contribution typically comes from the savings of the founder, or they're working another job or another business. They save some money over a couple different months, and then they put that into the new business, or it's actually a contribution in the form of a loan, which eventually the business is going to pay back to the founder. So this is the main way, the first way that most business owners will get started, is that they are just willing to save money. They are willing to not go to the movies as much. They'll go out on so many dates. I know so many attractive girls here in Miami. Unfortunately, you can't go out on as many dates as you might like. You can't go and drink maybe at the bar. Maybe you're just gonna not have so much entertainment or going out and dining in restaurants for a couple of months. You save up that money. You actually make a capital contribution to the business. This is the number one way if you have any kind of an income stream to get started. Number two might make your heart start to beat a little bit faster and get those palms a little bit sweaty. And that's because this word, I think, has a lot of negative connotations attached to that. And that's either using credit or in debt in order to finance your company, but let me explain a tiny bit. So first of all, in terms of the forms of credit or debt, typically a business owner will either be working off of things, for example, like credit cards. That could be a business credit card or a personal credit card to get started. There are some advantages, I would say, with going this particular method instead of just using a debit card, because you can obviously accumulate credit card points and you can use those to fly around the world or to do different cool stuff, or to even have cash back program, right? So you can use a credit card card to get started. And obviously it's best if you can pay that off so it can get you started. You can start to generate some revenue, or at least you can begin to have some different capital contributions to be able to pay off that credit card. That would be one simple way. In addition, you could also use a business loan. You could look into getting a business loan for a specific business to have some working capital. So that way you can actually pay a little bit when it comes to staff and necessary items and miscellaneous expenses. And that's just then going to impact your actual margins when it comes to the service or the product which you are providing to the end customer. And then at some point in time, you're going to be able to pay off that debt or that obligation, and then your margins are going to explode, right, as a business owner. Now, lots of big corporations will use short and long-term debt. This is a financial strategy that goes beyond the description of this particular video, but debt is definitely the one that I want to point out as number 2. For a beginning creator or business owner, the idea of using a credit card or using debt in order to finance your business, if you're not starting with very much, can be a little bit daunting and intimidating. And we've always been told debt is bad. But if you're actually trying to build a business, a cash flowing machine, you're actually using those funds in order to build up an asset which has value. So you're not just going out there and you're buying a bunch of furniture on debt, or buying like a nice TV on debt, or a bunch of stuff you don't need, some chains, right, or something like that on debt. You're actually using debt to actually acquire and build up an asset which can produce cash flows for you. And to be honest, at the end of the day, this is really about weighing your fears and pushing past those fears in order to achieve something that's a much bigger vision than you've ever thought possible. You need to dream big. You need to have a big vision which you're trying to go after to really be able to value that enough to be willing to say, you know what, I'm going to get a business loan. I'm going to get a business credit card. I'm going to use some of these strategies so that way I can actually take steps, tangible steps towards that vision because I value it so much. I'm willing to push past that fear. Number 3 in this list is really the secret when it comes to building something that's larger than what you could actually consume or imagine from your own imagination, something that's bigger than yourself. When we think about the big picture, we think about the major wins as a business owner, typically it's not really done alone. It's not as a solo sport, right? It's really something that you're doing as a team, as a member of the team, whether that's working with other partners or working with other people that can help you, or even working with investors, which is my next point. So investor capital is probably the next way I would say that's most common for entrepreneurs that are getting started, that don't have all of the funds just to launch this sucker. They need to bring in investors into the company. Now, by investors, I'm specifically referring to a pre-seed or a seed round in sort of the grand scheme of things when it comes to your startup company. So this could be, for example, angel investors. This could be family and friends. This could be, a group of angels that are kind of coming in, helping to invest in the company. But you need to be crystal clear again on what your big vision is. What is the big picture? What is the solution you're creating? Why is it unique? Why is it different? What is the traction which you've already experienced? Or in the future, what are you projecting and why is that the case? The more clear that you can be as a founder when it comes to this, it's much easier then for an investor to make sense of writing, for example, a $50,000 check into your business to provide that capital that you need to maybe do some R&D, to buy some ads, to work with other people to get the product to another stage, right? It makes a lot more sense when you have a compelling vision. If this is your first time hearing about investors, you never even thought about looking at financial statements, or you don't know anything about organizing different corporations, you are not alone. Every single successful business owner has gone through this. And the ones that really stand the test of time are the ones that are willing to confront that uncertainty, that are willing to put their nose to the grindstone, that are actually passionate about this enough to be willing to educate themselves, to look up the right videos online, to watch the right podcasts, to read the right books. They're willing to say, you know what, maybe I'm right here at point A, and to get to point B, I need to take some massive action. I need to take some steps along the way. I need to push past fear and some of these barriers which are holding me back, but also I need to learn things. I need to increase my potential. I need to learn new skill sets. And if that's something that you're willing to do, even if you've never raised money before, I guarantee you can do it because there's so many examples of people in my community who have. To make this point even a tiny bit easier, there is a whole new mechanism, a whole new way in which you can actually raise money for a startup company, and you can do it online. You can actually reach strangers who you've never met before to get them to invest in your company. And this is called equity crowdfunding. So this is something that I've pioneered. This is something that many other people as well are helping to educate the public about, and is my passion. It's something that I'm excited about, which is to bring quality education to you so you can go out there and you can can improve the world and kind of have a cool like ripple effect, right, in that way. So I have a lot of resources, information about equity crowdfunding, which you can learn more about on my YouTube channel. I also have a free course as well at crowdcrux.com/equity course, which will begin to warm you up to this concept of how do you raise investment capital from the crowd? How can you get investors who you've never met before, and how can you use equity crowdfunding in order to do that? So I'm going to link that up down below, that free course. You can check it out and you can learn more about this.
Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description.
The next way to fund a business, even if you don't have any kind of money, is to go again directly to the crowd, but this time in a different way. In my past point, I talked about equity crowdfunding, which is getting investors. Instead, I want to talk now about rewards-based crowdfunding. And this is really what, for me, jump-started my entire career in this space, whether it's YouTube, the podcast, the books I've written 10 different books, my blog, crowdcrux.com. I publish over 1,000 articles on my blog and many other sites which I'm a part of. So what is rewards-based crowdfunding? I'm specifically referring to the platforms of Kickstarter.com and Indiegogo.com. These are two crowdfunding websites which you can use in order to raise money or raise capital for a business idea, for a product of some kind, for something more creative like a game which you've invented or something like that, or even a music project, a film project, whatever it is, you can actually raise money for this on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And the big difference here is that when you're raising money, you have a certain funding goal, right? You to hit or exceed that particular funding goal, you can take those funds, and the people who back this campaign, they're called backers, will then get the product at the end of the day. So it's kind of like a pre-order campaign. They're backing this to get your product or to use your service or jumpstarting your business, and you're using those funds that from that pre-order campaign to go out there to actually execute and to bring this product into the world. If you really want to start a business from scratch, it is not about the money. It's about your mindset, it's about your habits, it's about the traits, and it's about really what you're learning. And unfortunately, at this point in time, you really have to be very open-minded about how you go about getting this sucker off the ground. So many entrepreneurs that have come before us have used each one of these strategies in order to build a business from scratch. But the number one thing that the ones who have lasted have had in common is the willingness to endure disappointment, to be persistent, to be creative, to be open-minded about how they can actually achieve their end result, and not being so fixated necessarily on the day-to-day execution, but being willing to do whatever it takes in order to get to that next potential stage. I guarantee you that if you are willing to actually embrace this mindset of open-mindedness, of education, of taking action, executing, not just being someone who's a daydreamer, who just keeps these ideas in your heads, but you actually put pen to the page, you create a business plan, you get cracking, you start talking to people, you start getting feedback, you start doing things, creating a prototype, whatever it is, you, my friend, will begin to become successful, and that will create such a tremendous amount of confidence and this sort of momentum snowballing effect where you can then achieve even greater things in the future. So I hope that this video kind of started you off with thinking about some of those easy ways in which you can actually build a business from scratch and do it without any kind of funding whatsoever. If nothing else, at least change your mindset a little bit and thinking about the business as being separate from you. And in that way, it will start to open up a couple of different ways in which you can get this sucker funded. Again, my name is Salvador Brigman. I got a bunch of different links down below that you can check out. I also have a free course out there on Kickstarter if you want to learn more about that at the link crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. You can learn more about that in the links in the description. Hope that you enjoyed this video. Come subscribe if you want more content like this on a weekly basis, bringing you from just having an idea to really having something out there that people are buying, that people are using, and that's really taking tangible steps towards your big goals and your vision. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.